Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. So, for those of you tuning in for the first time, I'm Irona Boster, certified speaker and communications coach, advanced certified life coach, public speaker, author, and podcaster. And as you know, for those of you who have been here before, I live, breathe, and function at the intersection of communication and healthy, balanced leadership, helping people communicate with purpose and integrity with both themselves and with those all around them. Now, under normal circumstances, I have a guest. However, today is a perfect moment to tell you guys that I don't know what's happened to our guest, but ironically, this is a great subject matter because of who our guest was. And I want to talk a little bit about it. You see, today we were going to center on a conversation focused on kindness and even more intentionally, courageous kindness. Now, it's very interesting because our guest often describes courageous kindness as a kind of internal operating system and something that helps us choose love in the moments when it would be easier to shut down, defend, or disconnect. So, I'm thinking about this from a perspective where, when something happens where someone ghosts you, or they don't show up, or they are running late, or something happens and your expectations crumble. Well, it is really easy to take offense. It's really easy to be hurt, to be upset, to take it personal. But the reality is, we don't know what's going on with another person. We don't know any given moment. We only know what it is that they choose to communicate with us. And sometimes there are going to be circumstances where they actively cannot communicate. So, in those moments, we could say, oh gosh, look at what that person did. I can't believe they didn't show up. This is a live show that we're on right now. And why? Why wouldn't they show up? What was it? Was it something about me? A lot of people go there too, right? Was it me? Was it something I said? Was it something I did? Or other people get really angry. What's wrong with them? Why can't they communicate better? But the reality is that when we choose kindness, we actually choose it, and we can choose it from a communication posture rather than a personality trait. I think about it, most people think that kindness is something that you feel, but in communication, I think it's actually something you practice, especially when your nervous system is activated, right? Like I could be sitting here right now saying, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so humiliated. I feel terrible that my guest hasn't shown up, and I was looking forward to this conversation. So there's disappointment engaged in that. There's so much there. And especially when something happens where it's a public facing situation. When it's a public facing situation, what kicks in? Well, our social survival trait. And our social survival, our social psychological survival instinct is really hardwired because it's the thing that all people experience that says we want to belong, we want to be accepted, and we want to be appreciated. And if you're facing something in public and something goes wrong in that circumstance, there's a really good possibility that other people are going to make fun of you, that other people you're going to feel humiliated in front of them. What happens there? Well, then you start to feel like, oh gosh, I don't belong. I'm not being accepted. I'm not being appreciated. And it can feel awful. But in my opinion, in communication, courageous kindness, it's not softness, it's choosing to stay in relationship instead of retreating into self-protection. Because self-protection is really easy. It's that's what our survival instincts do automatically. But when we move into more logical thinking, we can say to ourselves, gosh, I don't know what's going on here. I really don't. I have no idea. And it makes me think about how in everybody's world, they are in the spotlight. But in other people's world, you're not the spotlight. You're a side actor. You're you're a passing boat. You're the extra on set. So while it feels uncomfortable because you're stuck in this spotlight of, oh my gosh, it's naturally then easy to move into that self-protection mode. But the reality is we don't have to defend and justify and shut down. We don't have to get stuck in that loop. By choosing kindness, we can actually start to think about creating an internal operating system that says, okay, let me just pause. Let me just take a nice deep breath and let me stay human and stay connected to my humanity. And then we get to choose how to respond from our values instead of our triggers. And this actually keeps us grounded. It keeps us secure in who we are, and it doesn't push us out of alignment with our values, because it's very easy to then feel even more shame because we jumped to conclusions and then found out something happened, right? How many of us have jumped to a conclusion? Oh, they forgot about me. They did something here, and they embarrassed me, and they did that on purpose to me. How many of us do that when what we could say, and then later we find out something happened that was of no fault to that person, and then we feel bad. Then we go into that, oh my God, I feel bad that I jumped to those conclusions, right? Jumping to conclusions is easy because it's a part of our survival instinct. It's a part of our self-protection mode. I need to protect myself from the hurt I'm feeling in this moment. But we don't have to, because that's really more psychological than it is physical, right? And we can bypass that. We can bypass that psychology that says, oh gosh, I got to stay in self protection mode. Well, nothing actually happened to us. Nothing terrible, atrocious really did take place. I think I also want to talk about for a moment, kindness doesn't necessarily mean being nice, it means being anchored. Because kindness, it's not about abandoning yourself or people pleasing. It actually means holding your boundaries with warmth, with understanding. I can remain my human self and I can tell you, look, this is not acceptable, right? So we're not going to do this again. But I still also need to understand what was going on there. But holding boundaries with warmth doesn't mean yelling at somebody about your boundaries and telling them, how dare you, da, 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 with my boundaries. It means saying, listen, you know, I have told you time and time again that I don't accept phone calls after 11 p.m. And you have repeatedly called me after 11 p.m. So, unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to block your number after 11 p.m. I'm going to have to set up a thing so that I block you because you're not hearing me. And I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Maybe you're forgetting. Maybe you've got a lot on your plate. I'm not really sure, but just so you understand, this is how I stay true to me. Now, notice my voice didn't get angry. It didn't get defensive. It didn't get argumentative. It just said what it is and what it will be. And that is telling the truth without aggression. We don't need to be aggressive when we tell the truth. We really don't. We just need to be explanatory, clear, concise, and stay true to our integrity with that, right? So it means communicating it, not going silent. I know in this day and age, a lot of people do the ghosting thing because ghosting is easier than facing that person head on and telling them what the truth is for you. But it doesn't really help you get anywhere. And it actually doesn't help you hold to your boundaries. It actually helps you keep a cloak of self protection around you that can actually be very stifling. When we can communicate without aggression, and when we can communicate our boundaries with warmth, and when we can stay present without collapsing, well, guess what? There's a lot of power in that. Because also, it deepens the measure of communication that you're experiencing with that person. I also want to cover the fact that in my opinion, courageous kindness is contagious in communication. So when one person chooses to stay grounded and hold a loving response, it often shifts the entire tone of that interaction. So this is what I'm talking about. It creates a deeper psychological permission for the other person to soften too. It creates a deeper place for you to connect with. Whereas ghosting or blocking people just simply cuts it off. And then you end up in an echo chamber, and then somebody else says something and you cut them off. And all you're doing is cutting off opportunities for connection, opportunities for deeper understanding. And as a species, we are a communal species. And if you choose to walk through the world just simply cutting, 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 you're not being kind to yourself because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to offer yourself a space to grow and learn from one another, to open the doorway to curiosity, to exploration, to learning new perspectives. Because if you go through life with one singular focused perspective and you choose to put on tunnel vision and just cut when somebody else comes in and does something you don't like, you're going to keep narrowing and narrowing and narrowing your vision. And you are going to cut off all opportunities for support, for deep understanding, for growth. And it's going to feel very isolating. And that's not kind to yourself. I also believe that growing kindness for yourself and growing kindness with others and being courageous in your kindness, it's a skill that you build well before the hard moments, not during it. So again, I'll say this, I think it's a practice. I think, in fact, life is one great big practice. It's the practice of being human. Being human, not doing human, but being human is a constant state of practice, practicing my values, practicing and cultivating the small everyday interactions. And when we do it in the everyday, guess what happens? Well, when we do it in the everyday, it gets easier to do it in the hard moments. It really, really, truly does. So I want to leave you with that thought. And I have a hope that my person that was to be here today will be back and will return. I want to give him that opportunity because honestly, I'm going to tell everybody here, he is one of the greatest people that I know. He truly is a man of deep integrity and kindness. So I am hoping that everything is going okay with him. And I am wishing him well and hoping that, whatever it is that he's dealing with is something that he can quickly overcome. And you know what? Stay tuned because I have a feeling and a hope that maybe he'll be in shortly. I'm going to cut the live feed right now and end this stream, but I hope to return. I'll see you guys soon. And you know what? Let me leave you with one final thought. As you walk into this weekend, give yourself lots of loving opportunities to choose kindness over reactivity, to choose kindness and assume good. Assume good rather than ill intention. It will make you feel better about you. And that is the first place that it all begins. Thank you.